Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Active brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I am Dustin. We're going to be looking at Peloton. I was looking at the most active stocks on Yahoo Finance and I noticed that Peloton was up 12.5% today. I have been paying attention to Peloton just in the background because I do believe that there is a transition happening in this company. Now, I don't have any fundamental proof because I don't really honestly care about fundamentals. The reason why is because I don't have time to pay attention to fundamentals. I have time to pay attention to price. Now, price is telling me that we are up over 104% for the entire year. We are weirdly down 25% over the past 6 months, but then also very oddly up 32% over the past 3 months. Now, when we're looking at the 1 month, 15-day, 5-day, and 1 month, we're looking at decent gains, but that's not the type of gains I'm thinking about for Peloton. The reason why is because this is a story brand. Now, you may not necessarily think about it from a story brand perspective, but it has market share in the minds of millions and millions of people because of a common unifying experience we all went through called the pandemic. Now, the pandemic may be over, but the brands that made it, or at least became household names during that period, will like live on in our psyche forever. And I do think that this era in which we've gone through for companies recently, when it comes to cost cutting with higher rates and not being able to necessarily refinance debt or raise money, they've had to get very serious. And I think Peloton, while again, I'm not thinking about anything fundamental. Probably if it exists, it hasn't been delisted by now because who's buying $5,000 Pelotons or whatever the price of these treadmills and bikes are? It must have some reason for existing. So if we look at the raw data, what I like to see is that this price is essentially breaking out to three times or to three standard deviations above its mean, as well as now currently two standard deviations above. When you see the red lettering with the white background, that means it's three standard deviations above its mean. When you see the green background with the black lettering, that means it's within its standard deviation range. So we've essentially seen a little bit of recent breakouts while it's at the same time pulling back and staying very consistently in the middle of its range, but showing bullishness. What I like is that I'm seeing volatility falling. We're starting to get some price to rise in the future price path. I'll be curious what we get over the next few days here. If we look at the 1 day, we're up 12.5% or 12.16%. I mean, that's wild. But then if I think about where we are for the 1 day, we're down 1.32%. And yesterday, if you bought, you felt down significantly. But at the same time, who wouldn't have wanted to buy at 660 when you think about that you're at 747 today? Right? I mean, that's the true benefit of being able to buy when things are down on a 5 day look back because it really does give you an opportunity for setup, especially when you have the 15-day being positive as well as the 1 month. Now, we see that the 1 month has flipped negative for the previous 2 days, which again, that was a great signal because you still had the 3 month, which was positive. Now, when you take that in conjunction with the 3 month rolling return and the 1 month rolling return and then the 15-day rolling return and the 5 day rolling return and the 1 day rolling return are all positive and essentially have broken at least one major downshift, which was its 3 month, which hadn't been positive since the middle of February. I like to see things like that. That's a signal, especially when you see, ooh, what was this volume spike? How much? Oh, where's the volume? So we did have a lot of volume today. It didn't necessarily break out significantly high because it's still within its range, right? Because the standard deviation ranges and the colors still exist there. So we were at 27 million shares traded, which was the volume spike, which means it's the highest of the look back of the past 20 days or so, or 10 days. But regardless, that is pretty good. We are go long in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term. I do kind of like that the moves that I've seen recently have been under mostly falling volume, except for today. Like we saw a big increase in volume and we saw a big move up. We saw falling volume here, essentially, right? We were at 11, 12, 16, 12 million shares, and the price essentially was going nowhere. It was falling. That's a great signal, in my opinion. I mean, that a lot of technicians would say that, I'm sure, or like chartists, like traditional chartists or whatever. But I do kind of like what I see here. The one thing is that there's no clear sentiment. I mean, as much as I would love to say that this is a setup for a comeback at 46%, it is, right? It definitely is. But you can get up to actually, you know what? I take all this back. I actually would like to buy this at this position because I think this indicator generally is oscillating between like at the highest 60 and the lowest like 40 because it is bullishness and bearishness combined together. Now, if we look at the signals that we're getting, I did just get a big buy, but I also just got a 1 month bear trigger and a swift bear. I do not like that. I do not like that, Sam. I am. I do not like that. But if I look, let's go ahead and look at more of the individual data. We just looked at the actual 1 day data. Let's go ahead and look at the overall weekly chart. Top of the range, where are we? Okay, so the top of the range is coming down. Don't like that, but the top of the range is still at $10.58. Top of the range here, are we starting to break out? We are not breaking out. We have not hit it. If we look at the ultra fast, we already looked at that. Let's look at the volatility. The one thing about volatility is it is falling but rising, right? Like it looks like it bottomed here, but it is going closer to zero, but it's not quite there yet. It's hitting its moving average. It'll probably bounce off of that. But yeah, I mean, it's still negative. See, that's the thing is that you've got falling volatility while you still have negative correlation. It's not falling correlation. You see how it's kind of just like meandering around whatever level this is? Like for the past few days, I mean, I'd say the low here was, what was that? The low there was negative 3.9 and now it's negative 3.0, but it was essentially hovering around negative 2.2. Now I see that we've got some interesting setup in volume and volatility because the volume again until today had not broken out. Essentially it's on a little bit of a rise, but it's nothing substantial. There's no like massive breakouts in volume like we've seen in the past for Peloton. If you don't know what I'm talking about from the COVID era, it's all dropped off of the actual data even on the weekly look back. But I can still tell you that Peloton here, with it being around 50%, it being at 48% right now, 44%, even better. This is a kind of a nice setup, especially considering that on the weekly, it's been pretty negative. You're around a 44%, but you're rising on the bullishness. I kind of like the setup. Not because I believe that this is necessarily a fantastic setup for Peloton to be like the most bullish thing. It's low, right? It's in the middle of this range that it's been in since 2024. We have $5, we hit the top of 10. We're like right in the middle. We're at like seven, nearly 750, which is right between and $10. We are showing that we've got a negative, not a negative catalyst, but at least a down move in sentiment. While at the same time, we've seen an increase in volume and we're showing bullishness. We've got a slight uptick in volume. While at the same time, I know that the correlation is going to, it looks like price is leading the correlation here for the volatility, as opposed to the idea that when volatility flips, it's going to lead price. If you watch my previous video on APLD, you would have seen how the volatility there is an indication of the type of moves you're seeing in price. And I think that could happen here in Peloton. It just really hasn't done it yet, but that doesn't mean it won't. Because the market is showing us that there is definitely a bullishness, like a bullish sentiment, which is like in the backdrop. And I think that most of the people who are paying attention to Peloton are not necessarily thinking about the overall conditions. They're thinking about just the market, the stock itself. And I think that when things start to change, people forget how quickly people become crazy bullish because we have unlocked an entire generation of people who are like, oh, I can trade for free, or not free, but low cost commissions, if not zero, especially for like short and zero DTE options. This is a phenomenal move. In my opinion, this is definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to, especially if I'm thinking about long-term call options, because this price is fantastic, and I think very much like I've seen before, this thing can easily go up to the mid-teens, right? And from here, the mid-teens is almost 100% from 750. I mean, even at $13. So this is just something that I'm going to be thinking about because the bottom again, the bottom even there at $5. This thing has been up to $9 even in March when it was slightly, or February when it was slightly bullish, and into the end of December. I really like the move here. I think Peloton's going to be one of the ones that I've been paying attention to. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? And before you go, subscribe to the New High newsletter. I send you 25 stocks to your inbox every single Sunday. Stocks breaking out between $5 and $25. Stocks breaking out to 1-year highs, all-time highs. It is a great list to get your trading week started. If you're looking for getting a little more in-depth experience with my model specifically, you can always go to the Trade Range Authentication.web app. It is no different than any other app that you can find on the internet. You come here, you sign in with Google, you'll get access. It is free to sign up. You get 10 different looks every single day. Actually, let me pull up what we were just looking at. I know that we were looking at Peloton. I can go ahead and search for it. It's going to show up just the same as it would for you. The one thing is that you won't get as much of the individual statistics behind, but I'll add them over time. I've just been building this in my spare time because I love to code on the side, especially on the weekends. So I'm just looking at what we see in Peloton here. I mean, on the 1 year, the 9 month. I mean, this again, we're seeing what has essentially been sideways action. If we look at the trade, if we look at the actual table down here, let's pull it up. Let's go to the table here. Again, we have been in that range where it's essentially had green background and black lettering. That's been fantastic. You can see it's slightly bearish right now, but I don't think that's going to last forever. I can see it is above its trade level, which is at 682. We are near the top of the range, but once it flips bullish, this would start to be higher high territory, in my opinion. I mean, you are positive on the 3 month, and that is what I like to see the most. I see that I'm getting like a false signal here around the bearishness because of the double negative rolling 1 day, but I think I don't care about that. I think I'm going to overrule that in my own system just because of what I've experienced in the market so far and the way that I think the indexes are moving. Like if I, just as a simple example, if I do IX, what is it? IXIC. So this is the index. So IXIC.index. This is the NASDAQ. If we look at what is happening in the NASDAQ right now, right? Like more up close, not what has happened over the year, but what has really happened since essentially we've seen this turn for the summer. It started to happen here in April. That's when we got this bullishness. This is what these green bars are. We've essentially not looked back on bullishness since the beginning of May. Right? May 1st, we got a bullish signal and we have not looked back until these past two. But I really think that those are more of an aberration than they are anything specific or indicative of a trend. And I think this is going to follow through in Peloton as well. I mean, we've got a very similar move where the 3 month has gone positive. The 1 month has already been positive, like looking back for a while after being a long period of time when it's been a negative look back and a rolling return for a 1 month or a 15-day or a 3 month. It's still negative on a 6 month in terms of the actual index. So I do think that Peloton at least is going to show some of its similar move to what we've seen so far inside of the NASDAQ, as well as what it's itself exhibited since the beginning of May. It hasn't been as bullish, but it's definitely starting to show some very, very good signs that we're starting to see some very bullish behavior inside of the stock. And I think the most indicative sign, in my opinion, is going to be the volume. But again, tell me what you think in the comments below. You're long, you're short, you like it, you love it. Is this even a good review? See you in the comments. Talk to you soon.